Do you think that MT should have been the protagonist of Season 2, Book 2? My personal thought is that tackling her story was an absolutely necessary thing to do because this train has now introduced the concept of these denizens, NPCs. So what's up with them? It's very interesting, the episode in the Wasteland where Mace, he's basically just saying, you were created for the purpose of that chrome car, for Tulip to overcome her thing. So were you intended to escape?
Maybe you were supposed to find Jesse because you kind of started to reflect him. He's saying this to taunt him, Tian, but I think he's almost kind of got a point there.
You've got Mirror Tulip, and she is trying to figure out who she is. So, like, she changes her whole getup. She meets up with a person and a deer. How would you even describe Alan Dracula? He is all things at all times.
I really like the concept of Alan Dracula just being like this ultra powerful being who just has all of these amazing powers, but it's just a deer.
Yes.
The two primary protagonists of Book 2, MT, and you've got Jesse. They do have different stories. MT is trying to define herself. I was just noticing how many times people assign her like a name or a nickname, and how instantly she just tries to shove that off as soon as possible. That is her arc, is no one's gonna assign her a name. She's gonna assign herself her own name. And Jesse, his whole arc is like overcoming peer pressure and like not just doing what other people tell you to do. Those two arcs are parallel because MT is just saying, I'm not going to let anyone tell me who I am. And Jesse is, I'm not going to let people tell me what to do.
They both learn to define themselves by themselves. Because, like, if you look at all the cars that Jesse is sent through, they're kind of all just trying to teach him that one same lesson over and over again.
His number is so low. His number is only at like 31 when he gets on the train? So like his problem is not actually super severe. But it's interesting because it has, I think, the train's unintended result of sending MT through all these, and it also works just as well for her.
And I almost wonder if the reason that the Lucky Cat car was put in their path was to get Jesse to interact with the Apexes and overcome his issue that way.
That whole group is like the culmination of this peer pressure. It would honestly make a lot of sense. Like, that is when he gets his door.
It's the same conflict you see many times throughout Jesse's arc. Like, you see it with the Toad, which is very blatantly.
I do love the Toad car.
I do love the Toad
car.
It's such a great concept. Just an empty room with a Toad who's just like, please don't kick me. And the only way to escape is by kicking the Toad.
Yeah.
And then he comes back later too, like in the Lucky Cat car as a carny. And he's just like, please pay to kick me. Please.
Right, and then he like says his name, and then like it's like Lawrence or something. And
Terrence.
Like,
Terrence.
Yeah, it's like, oh, please call me Terrence. And I'm like, oh, your name was Terrence this whole time? And he's like, no.
Yeah,
I love it so
great.
much.
It's a great
when it's like Jesse is about to kick Terrence, it's like you can see he realizes as he's about to kick, his number just goes up, and then he pulls it back, and then the number goes back down. Then he does it again, and he realizes, oh, this isn't what I should be doing.
It's great how the whole first book is like Tulip trying to figure out how the number works, but that's not book 2. Book 2 is just, you know how the number works, and it's not trying to hide it in any way. I think with the train /11, whoever's in charge of the train, really, I still think it's the train itself.
I think there's definitely evidence to support the train itself being sentient. Because, like, Amelia wasn't doing anything to help the people hit the right cars, but the train was still doing it.
They literally said in one of the AMAs, the train decides which car would be best for a person. They probably have, like, multiple for, like, the same thing, so you can just go through the same sort of sequence, but like with different sets of cars. So it wouldn't make sense to have just like one car for this one purpose, because then they'd have to just like pull it from one place and then just pull it all the way down the train.
I think the point is that each passenger gets their own personalized experience.
It's kind of like a metaphor for therapy or something.
It absolutely is. It's meant to take issues that you have, help you to understand them, and help you to understand how to get past those issues.
I almost wonder if, like, the first few cars they encounter are almost diagnosing, like, well, how bad is this? Because the tree car that we first meet Jesse in, and then, like, the map car, like, they are still about that peer pressure to a certain extent, but they're a little looser about it than, like, every other car after that.
The family tree car, it's not so much peer pressure there. What it is it's trying to teach Jesse that he can't be everyone's friend. Because that's Jesse's real problem, is that he just wants to be
He
everyone's
literally
friend.
says he's
And
friends
He
with
wants
everybody.
to please everyone.
In like
Yeah.
the episode.
Right, he can make friends with anyone, even the kids who...
The eraser shaving kids.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes, the eraser shaving kids.
MT's at the start of the story, she's kind of content being with Alan Dracula and just hanging out. But at a certain point, I think it's after Jesse's like, once my number's gone down to 0, we're gonna go together. And MT kind of reevaluates what she wants out of her, I guess, existence. She doesn't want to keep running away from the cops. She wants to live anew. And so her whole purpose changes to basically figure out a way to get out of the train.
MT finally manages to track down where numbers get put on and sticks her hand out. And the laser just goes straight through her. The train does not recognize her as an entity who can even receive a number, because in a certain sense, she doesn't matter to the train. And I think it's that realization that, like, pushes her over the edge, and she just goes full on berserk.
She basically murders the Fleck. It's kind of brutal, and it's like, it's not something you expect, I guess, from an animated show.
No, absolutely.
They brought it up to Cartoon Network, and then it's like, unless it's human, then it's fine. You can kill them.
If you're gonna say, oh, well, Mace wasn't really a sentient person, that means MT isn't really a sentient person.
Yeah.
And it is very clearly the whole point of this season is that, no, she is. So, that's just straight up murder. Granted, not without good reasoning. Literally, he was trying to kill her, and she was probably going to let him live if he hadn't, in his last dying moment, been like, I am going to take us both down. But still, like, he's just screaming in agony. The goop is, like, dripping out of his face.
Yeah.
It's just like, whoa, alright.
Her face kind of really shows how she feels, just determined, almost just like, die already.
We brought it up in the last episode, but it's also just as relevant now that, like, the Wasteland is somehow connected to the train. That much is obvious.
They get to the edge and then they can't go anymore.
Yeah, there seems to be a distinct boundary point, and she kind of, like, gets flung all the way back to the train.
When they're outside the tape car, one's like, the tape car is the only car where the universe is projected on the outside. Which is bizarre and not really addressed. I'm wondering if the Wasteland isn't actually just part of the tape car.
I remember in our initial episode thinking about the tapes as like memory cards, essentially, that are created when a passenger gets onto the train.
It's just weird on so many levels. It's like, how are they pulling this strand out of this person's head? Where is this strand coming from?
Yeah.
And it still is a question of what is the purpose of the tapes, because I thought I understood the purpose of the tapes, but now I don't know if I do.
I imagine the tapes are memories that the train algorithm reads, essentially, to basically figure out what that person's number might be. That's what we kind of see in the number car. The tape gets put in, then they are given a number kind of based on that data.
I think you're right there. There is an MC Escher painting. It's a pretty iconic image. If you don't know, MC Escher was a surrealist artist and specialized in surrealism, which, if you don't know, surrealism, it's trying to emulate what dreams feel like. This image in particular, you're seeing this figure from 3 separate angles at the same time, and you're seeing things from different perspectives, and that's kind of the whole point, is that it doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense. It almost kind of feels like the porters are slightly based off of this design. I wonder if that episode in particular, where it was surreal in many ways, was intentionally paying homage to MC Escher.
I don't know why, but it reminded me of the Kaminoans from Star Wars for some reason, just because it's like, it felt like the long necks and then the head, and there's like the little things on the hair. I couldn't even tell what those things were.
Oh, yeah. Where the tapes were coming out of, there was like these tiny robots that were surrounding the white substance to hold it in place. It was kind of like small one-ones almost, like spherical robots.
I do love how when Jesse comes back, his issue is that he needs someone to get off the train, but you can't get off the train if you don't have a number. You can't have a number if you're not trying to get on the train, so his problem can't be fixed, but the train exists to solve the problem, so if you can't solve the problem, it's just this paradoxical loop. I love it.
No, it's great.
He calls MT the rare foil version of Tulip.
I really like the resolution, though. Like, all this time she's trying to be someone else and not be a reflection. And in the end, the way that she gets out is just her hand reflecting Jesse's hand. I think she kind of understands that, like, you can be your own person, but she is still, like, a mirror person. It's still part of her, you know? It's like she's kind of combined it together.
She is who she is, and what she is reflective. That doesn't mean that she's not her own unique person.
Book 2 really builds upon things that occurred in Book 1, but introduces so much more. It kind of feels more of like a complete story. It just expounds on so many things about the world. Yet still there are mysteries surrounding the train, which we kind of thought Book 2 might ruin some of the mystery aspect. But I don't know, like, I think some things are answered, but then at the same time, more and more questions are raised.
Yeah, because definitely with, like, the whole denizen thing, it's like, I don't think after Book 1 we're thinking, can a denizen leave the train? That Book 2 is like, hey, can a denizen leave the train? And then it just brings us that question, like, huh.
I don't feel like a Book 3 would be completely removed from Book 2. I feel like there'd be some carry through in terms of, like, we're following this character that we kind of spent some time with last time, but now they're the main character. Like MT.
The thing I came up with is that you've got this character similar to Jesse coming on the train, and then there's like the protagonist is somebody in the Apex, and then it's like they've been conditioned this way, and then they realize, wait, is that really how I should be doing things? And so the protagonist kind of changes their view of things.
I feel like an open-ended question is still, as far as characters go, is still
The cat?
Amelia. I don't know if the cat needs more development.
I feel like there's more, like, backstory, I guess,
Mhm.
but I don't know.
I guess, maybe.
The cat probably has the same backstory as literally every other denizen of the car. There was an orb, and then there was them.
Well, this is still the question that we had last time. Do all the denizens have orbs? And I would say they don't.
Yeah, we didn't actually see any orbs this time around, I don't think. So, still an open question.
I'd be curious to see what is the origins of the train. Because, like, you think about the number of people who are on the train at a time. That's a lot of people. How does, like, not everyone know about, oh yeah, there's just this train that just sucks you away to, like, another dimension?
Especially because it seems to be confirmed that it doesn't wipe your memory or anything. Jesse, like, his whole impetus is he was on the train, and so, like, he wants to get back on the train. People clearly know about the train, right?
Someone addressed this in the AMAs. They said it's like passengers, they could be like communicating with one another off the train, but then say it's like they talk to a normal person, then that person's not going to believe them, partially because they can't really have any evidence because they can't take anything off the train.
Right, like even objects stay behind, like Jesse's harpoon pack.
And the denizens are also connected to the train. You can't bring them with you unless one just decides, yeah, sure, why not? I love that that's a conclusion that he just, like, sees the reflection. He's like, yeah, okay, that works. But also, he's just as willing, like, when
Civ tries to kill her.
yeah, when Civ is just like, I got a solution to your problem. I'll kill her, and then he won't have a problem. You won't have to kick her off the train. And then one was like, yeah, that
I guess
would
so.
work.
I guess that's okay.
Yeah, and apparently they said it's like after MT leaves, one's just like, he puts tighter restrictions on, apparently, is what they're saying.
So, BioKnight, these are your questions.
Yep.
Please ask them.
Which book did you enjoy more? Personally, I enjoyed book 1 more, just because there's more mystery to the whole train and everything. I think that's kind of what helped it be sort of the better of the two.
I like book 2 a lot. It expounds on many things that are just interesting to know about the train, but I guess I would still prefer book 1.
I feel like I empathize more with the protagonists of book 2. That's just a nature of my background. I think I would say book 2 over book 1, but I also very much like book 1 for the same reasons you've said.
I don't strongly prefer either one. Both of them have things that I'm like, I really like that. I don't think I'd put either above the other, personally.
Do you think this release order, just doing 211 episodes a day, do you think they helped it or possibly hindered it?
This format sort of works for miniseries. Like the bomb format, the thing I didn't quite like about it was with Steven Universe, you'd have these 5 episodes and then just a span of who knows how long till the next episodes. It was part of a larger series. As a miniseries, I thought it was a fine release schedule.
The problem with any narrative-based media in general is that if you release it in inconsistent chunks, it actually hinders your viewing experience because it breaks up the flow. And I think this is the best format. I wouldn't want to see something like this weekly.
The best non-main character, for me, Terrence or Randall. They're just great, even though they don't appear that much. They're great little characters, funny one-liners and things like that.
I think I gotta give it to Randall. How can you not like the donut holer? He's gotta be the best one.
Terrence is great. Too good.
The crystal guy with the hat from the crystal car. I just really like his design. I really like Rocky designs. There's that great moment of book 1 where Tulip's like, anyone want to help me build a ladder? And they all just hold out their arms that have no thumbs.
Nobody has thumbs. And I was thinking about that, with the Parasite Car, because we didn't talk about that at all. I believe it's mentioned how the denizens, not all of them know that they can go out of their cars. I think one of the main locking mechanisms is just how most of them don't have hands.
Yeah, I noticed that.
The Parasite Car in general has some just weird imagery. The hands growing out of Alan Dracula's hooves, and just that's totally not disturbing at all.
Oh, baby hands.
You didn't say anything about baby hands, it's that's kind of even worse. One last question. If you were on the train, what do you think your number would be? Mine, I honestly don't know.
I have a neuroses about this one number. 343. It's followed me everywhere for years and years. That's a very large number for it to be, but somehow that would be it.
I, of course, am going to go for the second best number that I can safely mention, which is, of course, 420.
You're saying you've got more problems than me.
Look, man. 420.
Gosh darn it.
Probably really boring. It's my birth year, 1996. That's what I did.
That's a very high number. What?
Look, don't at me. Don't ask me. But yes.
I mean, think about it again. I'm just gonna go to throw out a random number, 330, basically my month and birthday.
Does the train do group therapy? Because I think we need to all hop on the Infinity Train.
Thank you, BioKnight, for being here.
Woo! First time, and I don't know if it's gonna be the only time. Who knows?
Punching another donut holder in this episode.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Have a good journey on your Infinity Train.
Keep in this bit because it's funny.